They say music feeds the soul and food feeds the heart. So please join us for season 2 of Brunch with a Black Man, where we sit down with Black men from across the world who talk about their experiences with mental health, mental wellness, and how they are taking on their own mental health journey. We sit down over brunch to break it down. Make sure you join us for season 2 of Brunch with a Black Man. Hello, I'm Miracle, host of Brunch with the Black Man, and welcome to another edition of Brunch with the Black Man featuring Tre Tipton. Tre, how are you doing today?
I'm truly blessed, can't complain.
It's always great to hear. I'm so thankful that you were able to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
How's your day been going?
It's been good so far. A lot of crazy things are happening, but I can't complain.
Always good to hear that you can't complain, so let's get right into it.
For sure.
You're here, we're in Pittsburgh. You are a man of many talents. So we want to get to know a little bit behind the lion, the myth.
Right.
So how did little Tre grow up?
Oh man, I wasn't a military kid, but I moved around a lot, right? I lived in all parts of the city, but I also lived in suburbs and also lived in the country, right? So my whole life, it was always kind of a battle, trying to figure out who I was or identifying what I was trying to do in life. But it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I realized I wanted to be an athlete, but most and more importantly, I wanted to be a superhero, right? So growing up, that was where everything was geared towards, was being an athlete and a superhero. How can I help? But also, how am I getting to the next stage of life with this game? And played sports all through my life, but dealt with mental health on a deep level predominantly my whole life, just because I never felt like I fit in anywhere. In some cases, it would be either I'm too black for the white kids or I'm too white for the black kids, because I traveled a lot, I moved around a lot, right? So the opportunity for me to feel wanted or together with somebody didn't really come to me until I got to high school. So experienced a lot of things that sometimes I don't agree with, as a kid, but then on the top of that, right, I had a lot of loss fast, lost a lot of friends, lost a lot of family members to tragedies, and it changed my perspective on a lot of things. So I grew up fast, had to be an adult fast, but at the same time, I wouldn't change anything that ever happened to me, nor would I change the way that I was raised, because I had two incredible parents. Although they weren't together, they both did their best to make sure that I was okay.
You talked about growing up fast when you were younger, you moved around. What was that like? Because you first were like in the East,
yeah,
cutting teeth in the streets,
right?
And then you kind of moved to like more of like a suburban area,
right?
So what was that like for your childhood?
It was difficult. It was extremely difficult, man, because I came from the inner city of Pittsburgh, right? And being in the inner city, right, you're a little bit more rough on the edges. You know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna let somebody talk crazy to you. You're not gonna just sit there and stand for just anything, right? But then on the back end too, it was difficult because, again, I was one of 3 black people in this community. So like, if anything that happened with a black person, they would assume it's one of these 3 black people, correct? So with that, it was always tough because I felt like I was fighting stigmas. You know what I mean? And not only fighting stigmas, but also trying to make a name for myself. So it definitely was tough at times, but in the same sense, man, I had a really good group of people around me. You know what I mean? I had really good friends. I also had a really good family. So they made sure that I was always wary of, although it might be difficult out here, doesn't mean necessarily that you are those things that people are saying about you, right? In my life, in my personal well-being, I believe that everything that somebody says to you can be 2 things. It can either be an opinion or it can be a lesson, but you get the opportunity to choose which one it is. So I just try to take that into my life every which way, right? And I didn't let the words hurt me, as most people would say, right? Although words are very strong, I had to become stronger.
When you talk about becoming stronger, wanting to be a superhero, a lot of things are happening in your life at a young age. Who's helping you process? Like, who's teaching you how to deal with that transition, how to deal with like the racial tension? Because you're still like a young kid.
I appreciate you. Oh yeah, you hooked this one up. Can't wait to get into these grits now. Thank you.
It's made with love.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, this looks incredible. But yeah, I never really had anybody teach me on how to process anything. It was kind of one of those things in my community where if it happened to you, we don't really necessarily talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, if we talked about it, it was like, you'll get over it. It's not gonna be too much. And it wasn't until I got to college that I realized that everything I was going through was valid. You know what I mean? So didn't really have anybody teach me on how to deal with it. And I kind of just had to learn through trial and error.
It's about learning through trial and error. Can you talk to us like a little bit about like why you wanted to be a superhero and like how you found sports as your calling?
For sure. So I wanted to be a superhero because I felt like nobody ever listened to me. And I wanted to be the person that decided to listen to somebody else, right? I believe that everybody else has a story. Everybody in this planet has a story, but who's deciding to listen? And for me, I wanted to be the person that listened. I wanted to be the person that you could count on, because I didn't have anybody to count on that I felt like I could talk to about what I was going through. So I made it a mission for myself to make sure that I was always that person to listen, pay attention, and let these people speak their minds and let them be able to tell their story. So for me, that's when I realized like that's what I need to do. But it wasn't until I got to about 8th, 9th grade that I realized I really wanted to do sports. And the reason being was I was a little street kid at one point in time, you know, made some mistakes, did some things that I wouldn't agree with right now. But when I turned everything around, I realized, I was like, listen, you can change your own life with this game. Like, you can get your mom the house, the car, the yacht, everything that you're thinking about doing, you can do it through this game. And at first I didn't believe it until I got my first offer. Once I seen that I got my first offer, I was like, okay, we can really do this. Like, we can really change everybody's life around us. And in that moment, I realized, I was like, it's gonna take a whole different me. I can't be the same kid that I was in middle school. I can't be the below GPA having type of kid that I was, man, because before then, I probably would have got like a 1.2 in middle school, you feel me? But when I got to high school, I was high honors, everything, because I made it a mission for me. I wanted to change the lives in my community, but I also wanted to change my mom's life. That was my biggest concern. So I knew I had to do things differently. I had to do school differently. I had to play ball differently. I had to work out differently. I would take myself to lengths, not just with schoolwork, but also with sports that most people wouldn't go. You know what I mean? And I would tell myself that constantly because I knew where I wanted to go. I knew how much time it took. I knew what needed to be done. And I was willing to do anything to get there.
You talk about willing to do anything to get there. So you're a kid, you know, you're living on the East, you experience some violence.
Mm-hmm.
So you move out to the suburbs, you're experiencing racial tension, you know, and you're rebelling, cause slip grades, but then you get, you know, upper, and they're like, this game is football.
Mm-hmm.
You got this, you fall in love, you kind of find an identity, and you develop so much of your time to that. Like, what would it feel like for you to, like, when that light clicked and was like, okay, I can have fun with this, I can make a life with this, I can have friends with this, and I can be okay doing this?
It didn't click to me until I was in 9th grade. And it was really when I started to go against the older kids and realized that I was beating them, right? And I was doing it at a higher level than they expected. And then I had my uncle Richard, when I was in 6th grade, he also told me that I was able to go out there and do this sport, but I didn't believe him until I got to high school. So for me, I was so gung-ho and like, you won't beat me. You can't break me. I'm unbreakable. That was my biggest thing. You can't break me. I'm unbreakable. Now, was that true? Not so much so, but I tried the best that I possibly could to make that. So that's basically it for that one.
Okay. So what is like little Trey listening to in 9th grade when he's trying to tell people that like, I'm unbreakable, you can't beat me? Like, what is the soundtrack that gets you going?
Soundtrack that gets you going during that time, it was either Andy Mineo, You Can't Stop Me, or Kirk Franklin during that time period. That was really deep in my faith, and I was also listening to a lot of spiritual music. But then on top of that was a little bit of Kendrick, a little bit J. Cole, was my 2 favorite artists. So the beef definitely hurt me. You know what I mean? It definitely hurt me in the previous, but ultimately those were the guys I were listening to.
Do you remember what was like the first hip hop song that you heard that you felt like spoke to you, or you were like, God, that was this one?
Yes, it was 2 of them. It was Losing My Balance by J. Cole. And then there was another song, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was speaking directly to his mom. And it resonated with me so much because although my father had played a role, there's a lot of things that he went through that he couldn't be around for. Thank you, boss. I appreciate you. There's a lot of things that he wanted to teach me, but he couldn't be around for, unfortunately. And during those time processes, I really leaned into poetry and I really leaned into music. So like those were the 2 spaces that kept me from being too irrational, too crazy.
So as you're going to high school, you have this vision. Nobody can beat you. Nobody can stop you. What was it like when you realized I'm getting an offer and I get to play this game like in college? Like, this is not just a dream. My dream is now. Like, I've manifested this reality.
I was so hungry that I didn't even recognize it. Sometimes I look back on it and I wish I had took more time to take it in. But during that time process, I was so focused on, no, I gotta go be the best. I gotta go help my mom. I gotta change somebody's life, right? So like, although I should have taken time to really nourish it and take care of it, it was so hard for me to do so because I felt like the job wasn't done, right? Like for everybody else, this was a huge accomplishment, but it's what I expected out of myself because of the preparation I put into it, right? I was staying after practices, after we had 2-hour practices and getting an extra hour of training with myself. And then I'm going onto a hill and I'm running hills by myself until I throw up. I knew for a fact, ain't nobody else out here trying to do that to themselves. You know what I'm saying? So like, it was so important to me to be who I was trying to be and what I was trying to do. You know what I mean? So like, I knew it took a lot of work. I knew it took that I was gonna have to go to lengths that other people just wouldn't go to. And fortunately, it wasn't always the greatest thing, but at the same time, it taught me so much.
You talk about being taught discipline and trying to do all this work. At what point is somebody talking to you about like your mental health and the things that you need to do in order to keep your mental health?
At what point?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, ain't nobody talked to me about my mental health until my freshman year of college. You know what I mean? And it took so long before I even felt like I felt comfortable enough with the right therapist for me to really like open up and speak up. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, it did take me a couple of therapists before I was really comfortable enough to say that I was okay. But nobody really talked to me about mental health and what mental health meant until my freshman year of college.
Okay, so your freshman year in college, can't beat me. Break the block here.
Right.
I got it. You've already grown up in a multicultural arena. You think you're psychologically prepared to deal with all that. What was your freshman year like?
Oh, my freshman year was terrible. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know about anybody else's freshman year in this month, but my freshman year was crazy, right? Unfortunately, that was probably one of my toughest years. Although I thought that I was unbreakable, I didn't realize that anytime that you believe that you're going to do something more, there's a bigger challenge that comes around, right? And in those challenges, you got to make a decision on how you respond, right? So I faced some really, really tough challenges, like some serious tough challenges. End up losing my first child, which it was tough for me to lose your child, because for me personally, all I ever wanted to be was a father and a role model and a superhero, as I explained before. But when I lost my first child, unfortunately, there's a lot of things that were going on around that as well. I was just entering football for the first time. I was just getting into college for the first time. So all these things were happening to me, and depression seeped in, you know what I mean? And it got to a point where I couldn't handle it and it got out of control. And so much so out of control that I ended up trying to take my life 4 times during my freshman year of college. And it just got really real for me fast. And the one thing I like to tell kids nowadays is a lot of kids try to walk around here acting hard, but it's not until you realize that the world's a lot tougher than you are that you need other people to rely on. And for me, I didn't realize that until I got into my sophomore year. So I faced depression, I faced anxiety, I faced a lot of pain, right? A lot of mental destruction. And me growing up, I faced a lot of different things too that I wasn't just talking about. You know, like I was molested as a kid. I watched my stepmother die, my cousins die. Like there was a lot of things that was going on, but I had not yet spoken about. I had not yet put out there to anybody. So my glass was just too full. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, because it was too full, that led me into trying to harm myself more than once. And it wasn't until my final attempt that I realized that I didn't want to kill myself. I didn't want to die. You know what I mean? Because at one point in time, like from when I was I'll just be honest, from when I was 7 years old till I was about 22, I thought about killing myself every day, like every day. And it wasn't until I got to this place in my heart and in my soul with God that I realized that the only way I'm going to beat this depression and this anxiety is not only by giving it to Him, but actively also trying to change that within myself. So like, those were some of the things I was struggling into my freshman year. And then going into that final time that I tried to harm myself, I made a commitment to myself and to God. Because in that final time I tried to harm myself, I was this close to actually finishing and going through with it. I was on the other side of the bridge, about to jump off, when I realized that I don't know if I really want to do this. And when I slipped, it immediately woke me up. It felt like God was talking directly to me and had told me straight to my face, like, you're not ready to die yet. This is not what you want to do. And in that moment, I started to realize I didn't want to be the trauma that I was currently facing on the inside of me for somebody else. So like in those moments, I had to make a decision. What do you want to do? You know what I mean? And it wasn't easy. There's a lot of things that went into that. The young lady that I was with, she was being molested by her father and her stepmother. And as a man, you want to take care of her. You want to try to be that person for her, but there was nothing I could do about it. And then on the back end, I just got hurt in football. I was failing in school. So I was going through it because I wasn't sleeping at night because she would come stay the night. And when she would stay the night, right, she would scream in her sleep because she would have night terrors. And when she would wake up, she would see me as her father. So you got to think, man, I'm not waking up. I'm not going to bed until 3 a.m. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. Now I got to go against all these grown men who got children, they got families, they're trying to figure out their lives, right? And I'm not even half the man that I need to be able to perform in front of these guys, right? So I was going through it, I was struggling, you know what I mean?
You come up going through it, struggling, your glass is like too heavy. Who's there to like, wait, listen, you need support, you need a therapist. Like, I see you struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You've been recruited, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you just like put yourself there.
Mm-hmm.
You've been recruited.
Mm-hmm.
You have grown adults whose
Mm-hmm.
job is to take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
Who's there for you?
Nobody. And that's what people don't understand. Like, during that time period when I was in school, mental health didn't become the cool thing to talk about until like 2018, 2019. I was talking about mental health and what I was going through in 2016 and 2017. You know what I mean? So during that time period, even men didn't know how to have those conversations with other young men that, although you're going through something, this is how you move you forward, right? We didn't have a sports psychologist on staff at the time. So really, I was out here on my own just trying to figure it out, right? And during that time process, I mean, it sucks and it doesn't sound great, but at the end of the day, everybody has a job to do, right? And the coach's job is to win the game. So they didn't have time for us. They didn't have time for that injured guy who's not performing, who's not feeding their family. You see what I'm saying? So I had to find my way.
You're talking about finding your way, you go to therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You get some support. You
Mm-hmm.
find that you can maybe possibly play, maybe not. What made you still stay committed to being around like football and around sports?
Because it's a superhero story, ain't it? You know what I mean? Like, you got to think about it. Like, everybody goes through something, but it's not about what you go through. It's about how you come up out of it. And for me, I realized at one point in time, I was like, listen, you can either beat yourself or you can be tired of losing to yourself. And that's where I was at. I was so frustrated. I was so mad. I was like, bro, like, you just can't keep losing to you. And what I mean by that is like, at the end of the day, it's a choice to sit in depression. It's not a choice to be depressed, but it's a choice to sit in depression. I didn't want to sit there no more. I was like, I want to be happy. I deserve to be happy. Just because it's hard doesn't mean shit. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean that you got to stop what you're doing. You got to slow down. Boys, speed up. If this is what you want to do, you want to live, then you're going to have to live. You're going to have to notice the little things, the small details. You're going to have to smile. You're going to have to do things that you ain't want to do and speak up and speak out, right? Like, and then also in that moment, to be quite honest with you, I got deeper in my faith with God. Immediately, I realized it's not what you go through, it's what you grow through. And in that moment, I was like, yeah, it's time, bro. Like, it's time for you to be that flower in the rough. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until the following year that I would actually be tested about that theory. So, yeah.
So you're going through, you say, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
You start therapy, you're still playing,
Mm-hmm.
you get some support,
Mm-hmm.
you know, grades getting a little better,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start to talk to people about your journey,
Mm-hmm.
like what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
What is that reception like? Because you're working for an institution
Right.
who likes to pretend, or likes to portray
Right.
that it's perfect, it's, you know, it's beautiful, we need to recruit here.
Right.
And here you have a homegrown athlete,
Mm-hmm.
star athlete,
Mm-hmm.
saying, I have been failed by this institution
Mm-hmm.
and I almost wasn't here.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
What was that process like for you?
it's a personal battle. I think one thing that people don't talk about in mental health is accountability, self-accountability as well, right? Like, at the end of the day, although the institution is supposed to be there, it was a quick learning lesson for myself that in life, when you leave an institution like that, ain't nobody coming to save you. You got to make a decision that you want to be saved. You also got to make a decision that you're going to do your best to get saved, right? Because it's not just about one direction. I immediately learned that mental health, relationships, anything that you're going through is a two-way street, right? You got to actively work on it. You got to actively get better. If you don't actively work on these things, you're going to stay stagnant. And with that pain that you're festering in, it's going to stay there, right? So like, you had to make a choice. And in that moment, it taught me self-accountability. I was like, I'm not going to sit here and wait for somebody else to come save me. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to take the time to get to know, why am I upset right now? And really ask the question. Write it down, speak about it, make a poem about it, right? All these different things I'm taking myself through, because at the end of the day, yes, I got therapy, but I didn't actually find the right therapist for me until after my fourth therapist. So it's like, during those time processes, I was trying to figure out, like, okay, like, what fits me, what doesn't? Who do I want to be around? What do I need for my own personal benefit to become better, right? These are questions that I'm asking myself. Then on the back end of that, right, I'm still being a teammate, still going to school. Then I created an organization that ends up becoming my business. So I'm running a business, going to school, and I'm playing football. It was a lot, but at the same time, it's what God blessed me with. So I couldn't complain.
I say it was a lot. Moving into your senior year, That's usually the year where you gotta make a decision,
Mm-hmm.
like for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You've had an injury.
Mm-hmm.
You have the pressure of your family
Mm-hmm.
trying to, wanting to make it like on your back.
Right.
You have this goal that you have really sacrificed your body for,
Mm-hmm.
like over a decade. And
Yeah.
you were coming to the realization that it may not be the way you have designed it.
Right.
What was that process like for you?
It was heartbreaking. It was the hardest breakup I've ever faced in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I've been in relationships, but to lose the sport that you've been playing since you were 5, I'm now 25, 26 at that time, right? So I'm coming out of a sport that I love with everything that I got. I gave it everything. I gave it my passion, my heart, my emotions, my time, right? And it's no longer here. So that first year coming out of that, man, it was a rough breakup. You had to really sit yourself down. Who are you? Thank the Lord that I had time to realize who I was, because I had so many injuries when I was there, right? So I had a lot of time to re-identify. But the first time, if it would have happened to me that was the first time I just didn't have ball, I don't know. But it wasn't the first time I didn't have ball. I didn't have ball my freshman year, I got hurt. Didn't have ball the second year because I almost died on the football field. Then the following year, I didn't have ball because of an ACL injury. Then the following year, I didn't have ball because of something else. So it wasn't like I didn't have the opportunity to re-identify myself. But when I took the time to really think about it, I'm like, no, like, there's no coming back this time. That's when it really kind of like, whoa, slow down. We really got to identify who we are. Without this game no longer exists in your heart. Like, you could love it, but you can't play it, right? Football's the only sport with a death certificate. Like, once it's done, you can't pick it back up. It's not possible, right? So for me, in those moments, I was like, okay, who have you always been without this sport? Superhero. You know what I mean? So for me, it just got into helping people. Even with my work now, I don't do anything that is not involved with helping people. If it's not helping people, why am I doing it? You're wasting my time. You know what I mean? So that's where my identity has now fruitfully grew.
You brought it up, so I'm gonna go there.
Go ahead, let's do
So
it.
you almost died.
Yeah.
Playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you worked really hard. You rehabbed yourself. What people would say, you did everything that you were supposed to do to make yourself feel right, mentally, physically, spiritually. You're getting your personal life together. You're getting your relationship with God together. Your grades are going up. You're back in the game. And then
boom. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was it was like, this is how I see it. I'll just be honest here. Like, when you ask God for something, right, don't expect it to just come to you. You gotta earn that. You gotta grow through some things first. The thing is, what I believe that most people fall short is the fact that they believe when they ask for something, they're gonna receive it right now. No, you receive it through trial and error. You receive it through pain and strife. For me, I had told God I'd never be back here again. I'll never be mentally unwell the way that I felt in that moment ever again. In that moment when I almost fell off that bridge, something did die that day. The old version of me died that day. So when I got into the following season, like you said, grades are good. I'm working hard, killing these boys on the field. Things are going great, right? Then we get to November 16th, 2020, no, it was November 24th, 2016. And a play that I had told coach 100 times that wasn't gonna work, they pulled me into the game for the one play I told them that was not gonna work. And I'm like, coach, like, what is we doing? What is we doing? Lo and behold, I go into the game and I look at my quarterback, and Nate Peterman, I'll never forget it. I'm like, yo, like, if there's more than 3 people around me, bro, don't throw that shit. Like, just don't throw it. Boom, I get into the game, I'm paying attention. I see the guy far off the hash, and I'm talking football now, but I see a guy far off the hash, and he's rotating because he sees me. Now, I see him see me, see him. And then I look back at my quarterback, I'm like, he ain't about to throw this. There's 3 guys around me. There ain't no way he about to throw this. I look, and he ain't look nowhere else. He's looking me dead in my eyes. I'm like, oh, he's about to throw this. He throws the ball, and I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, this is a business decision. Do we catch this football, Trey? Or do we just let it go? And I'm like, man, don't be soft. Go get that ball. Well, me talking bad on myself, boy knocked me unconscious, like smooth unconscious. You can find the video, it's funny as heck. I laugh at it. But he knocked me smooth unconscious. There was a guy behind me holding me there, and he ran and just crushed me. He was about 6'4", 225. He ran a 4.340 at his combine. So the kid's moving, right? And I remember when I woke up, I had the ball in my hands. So then I'm smiling, because I was like, I still caught it. And I'm over there trying to talk stuff, but I can't breathe. Like, so as I'm trying to gain my wind, I'm like, oh, I just got the wind knocked out of me. I think I broke my wrist. They get me up. They take me in the back to do x-rays. They said, you look fine. Go back out there and play. I go back out there and play. I feel fine. I go down there and make a play. And I get to halftime and something doesn't feel right. One of my teammates, Rara Arujo Lopes, that's a long name. Try to say it 3 times, ain't gonna work. But one of my close friends to this day, his name's Rara, and he's looking at me like, yo, Trey, you don't seem good. I think I'm fine. I'm having a conversation with people just like how we're talking. But he's like, nah, bro, like, it don't seem like you're breathing. He said, go see Doc. I'm like, I'm cool, bro. And he's like, nah, go see Doc. So I went over to the doctors. All of them looked at me. 4 out of the 5 doctors all said I was fine. 4 out of 5. If we're talking school books, 4 out of 5, I got a B+. I'm taking that all day. You know what I'm saying? So like, when they said I was fine, the one doctor, Dr. Musa, I'll never forget, either Dr. Musa or Dr. Mayers, one of them, was like, you know what? I just got a bad feeling. Let's send him to the hospital. If he's fine, we can come back and play in the second half. Now, I'm doing the timing in my head, especially because they just told me I'm going to Jackson Memorial. I'm like, that's a 30-minute drive. By the time that starts, third quarter already. Y'all lying to me right now. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it because they asked me to do it. I get to the hospital. Now, full disclosure, it's funny to me when I'm to you. I get there. They don't even get me inside yet. I'm not even in the building. They immediately cut all my football pads and everything. I'm butt naked in the middle of Miami. So first of all, now I'm messed up because I'm like,
wait a minute,
why y'all got me butt naked in the middle of Miami? Y'all could have took me inside for this. And they rushed me inside. And I'm like, in my head, it's like, yo, this ain't that serious. Slow down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling myself, like, I'm fine. And the doctor comes in and he does his x-rays. And his first thought is like, he's like, we're going to do the x-rays. If you're good, we'll send you back. Now, I know everybody lying to me. You ain't about to cut all this off of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I going to wear? Like, you can lie to them, but you ain't got to lie to me. And when we get there, man, I've never seen an x-ray come back so fast. You've had surgery, so I know you understand. Anytime you get an x-ray, it's going to take an hour. Probably you're chilling for a minute. I knew it was bad because he went out and came right back in. So I'm like, oh no, like this ain't good. Because I've never seen a doctor in my entire life on an x-ray. Like, it don't work like that. We wish it would, but it never does, right? And he came back in, he just told me straight. He was like, listen, son, he said, your lung is collapsing. There's too much blood in your lung. You will die if we don't put you under. Whoa, slow down, boss. I just got done having a conversation with you, and now you just left and you came back and you're telling me I'm gonna die. We ain't doing all that. What's really going on? He said, no, your lung is collapsing. You're thankful that you didn't stay the third quarter, because if you stayed the third quarter, you might not have made it. And if you'd have got on that plane and started flying, you'd have died for sure. And I'm in shock when he's telling me this. He said, sign this paper just in case you don't wake up. This is happening all within 15 minutes. So I ain't even have enough time just to realize, oh, I almost died, for real. Like, I seriously almost died. And when I woke up, I just remember there was a tube in my chest and there was blood coming out of my chest. So I went back to sleep because I was nervous. Like, I was like, that ain't good. And just went back to sleep. And when I woke back up, I remember this pain that I had. There was so much pain. It was so bad to the point where, like, I could feel it in my forehead down to my toes. And I was screaming at the doctor. I'm like, listen, I don't know what drugs you got. Give me them all. Like, I'm screaming at him. Mind you, I'm already delusional. Yeah. But I'm screaming at him. And I remember trying to text my mom, but they gave me one of these old Motorola's. You know, the old joints where you had to go the whole way through. I'm high, my man. Like, I'm not going to figure out how to text my mom right now. So I try to call her. And everybody's panicked because they see me leave but never come back. I said, Mom, breathe. I'm fine. And I just go back to sleep. Like, she's on the phone, but that's the last thing she heard. So the team, the coaches, everybody flew my mom down. They paid for everything. It was probably one of the best things I've ever seen Pitt do personally. They made sure that my mom was taken care of, that she got to her baby. And I just remember sitting there laughing because I woke up, I was like, bro, you tried to kill yourself last year. And now this is out of your hands. God got a funny way of working, huh? And I just started laughing because I'm just like, you really got to make a decision on who you want to be. Because in that moment, I could have just went right back to the way of thinking I used to. I had the game taken away from me again. Almost died on this table. Like, I can go right back into the depression, go right back into being soft. And I say soft, and I say that for myself because at that time, I wasn't actually trying to do anything to change my life. I wasn't trying to get help. I wasn't trying to go to therapy. You're not soft for what you go through. You're soft when you decide to do nothing about it. For me, I was like, wait a minute. We ain't going back there, dog. I don't care what you do. You gotta make everybody in here smile. That was my first #1 rule. Mind you, I'm in the ICU. My number one rule was I gotta make every nurse that comes in here smile. Rule number 2 was you can't ever have a negative space when these nurses come in here. And here's why. So there's one nurse, I won't forget his name, Yusuf, coolest dude to this day. Let me know how much drugs he was putting into my body, all the above. Took care of me. I said, well, if they're taking care of me this way, I'm gonna take care of them the opposite way. And the reason being is because I was the healthiest person in ICU. Mind you, almost died, but I'm the healthiest. The guy next to me got hit by a train and survived. The guy across from me got shot in his throat. And the guy directly across from me got into a car accident. Had the same problem, but got into a car accident. So I'm looking around as I wake up. I'm good. Everybody else is messed up. I'm realistically good. So I'm over there having conversations until this one nurse came in. He's a military man. Never forget him. It's when I just got done with my surgery. My man told me straight up, they rolled me into the ICU. I'm sitting there and he's like, "I'll be honest with you, young fella." Just like that. First, so I'm kind of laugh, but I can't because my chest hurts. So I'll be honest with you, young fella. He said, if you don't get that blood out of your chest, you're gonna go into a coma tomorrow. Now, I giggle and I'm like, bro, I just woke up. I ain't trying to go back to sleep. And he starts laughing and then I go back to sleep, right? So then I wake up and I start breathing this breathing apparatus. I start spitting out blood. I can't make this up. I start spitting out of blood. Every time I breathe in, I would just start coughing up this bloody mucus. And then I'm like this big, you gotta get it out, right? And the hardest thing out of all that was learning how to walk again and then learning how to breathe again and then breathing and walking at the same time, right? So in those moments, I was like, okay, Trey, how are we getting out of this? You know what I mean? I just told myself I was gonna compound interest on my positivity every day. I don't care on what we gotta find, on what kind of win we gotta find, it has to be a win. You know what I mean? So whatever we can find from that day to make it positive, let's do that. And I started doing that. I started compounding interest on my positivity. Lo and behold, I was able to get through it and I continued to play.
Freshman year, breaks. Sophomore year, breaks. Your mind is like, you can break my body, but you can't break my mind.
Can't break my mind.
So you continue to play.
Mm-hmm.
Most people have been like, you know what?
I'm done.
I'm good. You know what? I gave them all.
I'm good to go.
You almost got my lung. I'm good. What made you say I'm still going to be this discipline and not taking this away?
Because you can't break me. You can put me through the grinder. The devil himself can pull up on me. My faith in God and my faith in myself. There's no breaking me. At the end of the day, like if it's that bad, I wouldn't be here, right? And I felt like God gave me a mission to be able to help people and serve people. In that moment, I'm like, I'm gonna serve me. I'm gonna serve God. I'm gonna serve the people around me. And if it don't work, it just don't work. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna quit. I said to quit, bro. You ain't never been built to quit your whole entire life. I've been through worse. Although, like, yeah, things were hard, right? In that moment, I was so motivated by life. Like, I've been through worse, way worse. I don't watch things that most people my age should never see, right? So, like, I was like, if you quit now, bro, could you look at yourself in the mirror years from now and be like, I did all I could. I knew I couldn't.
And then because you get hurt in such a national way, right?
Mm-hmm.
People understand. Do you recognize that the support then is different? Because now you're someone who got hurt and it was on camera,
Mm-hmm.
and now there's a spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
So now is the care and support different?
It's different to a degree. I'd say to a degree, and the reason why I say to a degree is because they realize and they recognize that, like, yeah, you're hurt. They're gonna make sure that you're okay. But on top of that, though, it still comes down to you. Like, they told me specifically, don't come back and try to work out or try to play for 6 months. I said, nah, forget that. I'm gonna come back in 2. I was always just that motivated by, like, I was motivated by God. I was motivated by the people I was around. I was like, you're gonna have to kill me to break me. Also, too, to kind of give you some insight on why I'm like this. You ever see that TikTok and they're like, how many times do you realistically think about the Roman Empire? Yo, I can't make this out. And everybody who's in here right now, you can laugh. This is every week. I'm a gladiator at heart. Like, I'm telling you, the Roman Empire was my thing. I watched Spartacus, all 4 seasons, everything that you could think of. So in my head, would you quit? If you was in a line of battle, like if my life was on the line, would I just quit and lay down? Couldn't do it. It's not for me. It's not built in me. So I told myself, I said, listen, if you're not gonna quit then, why would you quit now? Make it make sense. Life is war. The reason why I said life is war is because you get the chance to choose. You can go to battle, get up. It's hard. Today might be hard somewhere. You can get up and go after it, or you can just stay in the back and let the devil whoop your butt. What you want to do?
So you have this battle mindset.
Mm-hmm.
and it's pushing you through when you're still playing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get injured.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you recognize like this game may not be for me and I can pivot?
Mm-hmm.
And pivoting isn't giving up.
Mm-hmm.
It's keeping me in the battle,
Mm-hmm.
but picking a different way.
It's funny you say that, because you would think like after like year 3, you'd be like, bro, like you get it? Like I know you get it. Nah, it took year 7. It took year 7. And about 7 injuries later. But at the same time, like I was like, listen, bro, like at the end of the day, bro, football didn't make you into the warrior. You're just a warrior. It's who you are. It's what you've been built to do. You've been bred to do. I believe this in all athletes of any sort. If you ever played a sport in any type of shape or form, the athlete never leaves. You were bred to get over obstacles. You were bred to get through adversity. Does that make it easy? No. But it makes you have to really realize where you're standing. What ground are you on? Are you on sand or are you on solid foundation? And a lot of the time I was on sand. I was going through a lot of different things, you know? So I was trying to just improve my mindset and improve my mental.
Talk about improving. So you're pivoting, you have this company,
Mm-hmm.
so you're able to get the company off the ground. I kind of want to ask you, because you talked about so much trauma and pain you've gone through your whole entire life. You were always fighting. Did you ever look at yourself and be like, you know what? It's okay for me not to always be a warrior. Like, it's okay for me not to always be in battle.
Yeah, it took me, I would say like my 6th year, I started to realize my grieving points. Like how long I needed to grieve over time in order for me to actually say like, okay, now get up. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, bro, when you feel negativity, we're all proponents of this. We wallow in it, right? We have some sort of self-pity a little bit. Everybody goes through it. I know personally how long I need to grieve before I need to move up and move forward. For me, it takes me about a week to grieve over something small, over something big about 2 to 3 months, right? So like for me, once I get past that grieving point, you can be hurt. Take your time to be injured. Lick your wounds, get them healthy, right? Let those scars heal a little bit. Then after that, get up, right? Because if you stay down and you never get back up, then you lost. You're defeated. It's one thing to lose, but it's another thing to be defeated. So yeah.
Yeah, but you know, you win and lose sometimes. That's like the game of life. But now you've pivoted, you have your company, you're sharing your story. What is that reception like? Because it was really interesting, I think, especially like with Black people, and we're airing our dirty laundry, we're like telling all the things that happen, and like your parents are either like, okay, that happened, or they're like, why are you telling that?
Right.
Or, you know, especially when you're talking about being a survivor, there's also like guilt that comes with that. Like, what is the reception of when you start being honest with yourself and your story to other folks?
Wasn't great at first. I won't lie. It wasn't great. I had to fight for that honesty from athletes, because athletes specifically, they're really closed-minded. They're really closed off too. And with that said, like I had to really allow them to take their time before they came out and said, this is what I'm going through. But our number one rule was anything that happens in the circle stays in the circle. Anything outside the circle is outside the circle. So if you were somebody who shared somebody else's story outside of the space that we're in, we would ask you not to come back. Because this is important. This is somebody else's lifestyle. This is somebody else's story. Don't share their story unless they give you that respect that allow you to do so. So there's things I heard, there's things that I've seen from athletes on campus that's happened to them from other athletes and vice versa, and coaches and all these things. But it was a trust amongst us that was like, listen, if you're sharing this with me, unless you want me to tell somebody, I'm gonna hold it down for you. But if you start thinking about harming yourself or somebody else, I gotta go let somebody know, right? So like these were conversations that we were having, and we ended up helping around 456 athletes during the time in which I was there. And it was important to me because they all were me. And that's how I seen it. It wasn't like I was helping them as much as they were really helping me. A lot of people seen it as I was helping them, but like, listen, I gave my heart to those people, and those people decided to take care of me. So in return, I took care of them by giving them the program and things that I could help each other out with. You know what I mean? So that for me was huge, because they definitely started to have my back in that, right? But in my eyes, my coaches started to like it. They were like, Trey, can we send players your way? For sure. Let's sit down and talk. But then it got to a point where my leadership changed on the team. Like I wasn't the same leader that they needed me to be in the first couple of years once that started. Because now I'm the one that I'm getting texts from coach late at night. Hey, can you call so-and-so? He just lost his best friend. Because at the time we were working on getting a sports psychologist, but it wasn't yet a thing. So there were conversations would be had with me and players, and then I would go find somebody to help them along. Or just keep it right where it's at. It became something that I fell in love with. I was like, yo, like, this is crazy. Like, I'm really finding out all these stories, and then people are coming to me when coach is messing up. I get pulled aside. I still got to practice. I still got to look at the playbook. But I'm getting pulled to the side, and people are coming to me having conversations. I took that in with honor because you're trusting me enough to be that guy for you. Let me stop and let me do it. Let me actually listen.
So does Tre now feel like they are that superhero?
I think I'm close. I think I got a long way to go. There's a lot of lives that I want to save. There's a lot of things I want to do. And it's not on me to save lives. I've also realized that. It's not on me to save lives. But it's on me to try my best to help people out. And as long as I do that, I'll do my best.
So what does that look like? You said there's more you got to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
You started youth mental health, program. You're working in like this mixed media space, traveling all over, helping other people tell their stories. What is like the thing that you want to accomplish?
The overarching?
Yeah.
You know what? This is the first time I've ever been asked this question. I ain't gonna lie. This is the first time. You seen, I've been ready the whole time.
I know. Listen, we got it.
You got me on this one.
Gotta get one. Just gotta get one.
This one right here, honestly, the overarching, I just want at the end of the day when I pass away, that when people pull up to my funeral, they said that he did everything he could to help us. That's it. I can care less. I'll be honest with you. I am the most simple person on this entire planet, at least in my eyes. As long as I'm helping somebody, and I know at the end of the day when I pass away, the people who show up to my funeral could say like, nah, he gave everything he could to the people he loved. That's the best you got out of me, dog. I don't know what else to tell you.
So like, little Tre was working, trying to be a superhero, being an athlete. College, young Tre was working, trying to be an athlete, trying to save himself, trying to save his partner. Have you now realized that like it's okay for you to just like to exist in the world, have love, receive love, be loved without having to save somebody?
Oh yeah, man. I definitely have a good core of people around me right now that like, again, I feel like as we get older, man, you start to really see who the circle is, right? Like you go from in college having this huge circle, then you hit your like 30s, and that circle goes diminished immediately, right? To like 2-3 people. But those 2-3 people, I see my man laughing in the back, he gets it. Like, it's one of those things, man, where like, you immediately realize like, okay, let somebody else love on you. And I knew that was one of the bigger things is when I lost my mom. I tell people ask me all the time, like, how do you share yourself with other people? I'm not the person who saves me, and I'll openly admit that. That's why I put specific people around me so they can save me. And I also have to be honest with these people. What does that mean? I gotta tell them when I'm really messed up. And when I look messed up, I need to let them know like I am messed up. So they know when Tre's not himself, they're prepared to jump in the game. Because there's times I might say I'm good. I might even look at you. You might ask me 10 times, Miracle, Tre, you good? I might say every time, I'm straight. But people who know me, nah, dog. I'm gonna pull up on you after the game. And I have a very few who do that, but those are the people I rely on when I'm really struggling. Like, yo, what do I gotta do? Tell me on how I should move in this. You know what I'm saying? What space should I be in? I can't handle everything alone. That's why I genuinely believe to every superhero story, there's always a group or a team, right? The Justice League, the Avengers, right? All these different groups. But it's because although they are superheroes, they can't save the world completely on their own. It's not possible because they need somebody else to look out for them. If I was Jesus, maybe, but I ain't Jesus. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got no parts of that. So I need those people around me that can really look out for me when I can't. And that's just me being honest. Like, I'm no perfect person. I don't have every answer. Can't even lie to you. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna do the wrong thing before I do the right thing. But the people that I put around me, they're important to me because they make sure that I'm in the right direction, where I'm mentally okay. While I'm doing the saving, they saving me. That's how I see it anyway, you know what I mean? So it's important to have those people, but it's also important to know your recruiting habits. I tell people this all the time, how you recruit matters. And some people go around wondering like, why is my life so hard? Why is my life so bad? Well, look on who you recruited to be on your team. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have everybody on the team just because they was there. Like, it has to be a set amount of rules within yourself, morals, values that allow certain people to get close to you, right? I ain't just about to just let somebody just come into the club. Like, you can't just get into the club. You gotta know me a little bit. So the people who actually take the time to get to know me, show me that they got my back, and also show that we can have good conversation and talk about what we're going through, we'll hold it down, right? So those are my people.
My last question is going to be, if you could go back and talk to Tre, what would you tell him?
You sure you want this answer?
Yeah, it's your life. It's your story.
If I can go back and tell that kid on the bridge, I would tell him one thing's for sure. I said, it's not as hard as you think it is. And it will get better, but it's all on you to make it better. And what I mean by that is going back to that self-accountability. When I say it's all on you to make it better, I'm not saying that you got to figure everything out on your own. You just have to be able to be vulnerable. You have to be willing. These are two tough ones. I already said two really tough ones. You got to be vulnerable. You got to be willing. Then you got to reach. You got to reach out, right? So if you're not doing any of these things, young Tre, you ain't out the game yet. You just haven't tried to play the game yet. And when I thought about it, I was like, it's time to get in the game. Start asking for help. Start talking to people. Start actually looking into different things, doing some research on myself, right? Game change, right? So that kid that was struggling, beating his head off the wall, didn't know where to go, ready to quit life. I'm like, bro, slow down. We ain't even taking enough time to breathe yet, my boy. Now that you breathe, now look around. Who's really with you? Because although I felt so alone, there was 100 people telling me they loved me. I just couldn't see it. I was blinded by my depression. And 9 times out of 10, that happens to the majority of people out there. There's somebody somewhere that says they love you. You just don't take time to notice it because you're so blinded by your depression. And if there's nobody out there, well, then there's Jesus. And if you don't believe in that, then you better believe in yourself because it's about to get real for you. So those are the things for me personally. Like, without that, I don't think that young Tre would still be here.
Well, I'm happy young Tre went through everything because I'm happy you're here with us. And that has been this edition of Brunch with the Black Man.